The Nebraska Department of Education and Nebraska Appleseed are happy to have you join us today. We're interested in sharing ideas with you about how you can continue to serve meals throughout this summer as a way to help your communities during a time that is probably marked by very high need among the children that you serve. I'm Katie Parch. I work at the Department of Education with the National School Lunch and Summer Food Service programs. I have a few members of the team with us here today, and I wanted to point that out to you because we're all available to help you. If you have questions, make sure to type those in the chat box if you'd like to. We've also allocated some time at the conclusion of the presentation for you to utilize as an opportunity to ask questions and get answers from our team as well. But if anything crops up in your mind as we're going through the presentation today, feel free to type that in the chat box, and we'll give you the opportunity to utilize it at the conclusion of the training or to unmute your microphone and ask that way as well. With you today, obviously, is me, right? You know me very well. You receive lots of emails and other training and communication from me, but also with us today is Eric Saviano with Nebraska Appleseed. So I'll let him share a little bit about his work with us now.
Katie and everybody on the call, thank you so much for being here. My name is Eric Saviano. I'm the Senior Program Associate at Nebraska Appleseed for our Economic Justice Program. And during this time and all throughout the year, we are working to fight for justice and opportunity for all Nebraskans. I will share a little bit more about our work and give a little bit of an update on what we are seeing in the community through our work a little bit later.
Thank you, Eric. Throughout today's 30 to 40-minute presentation for you, or educational opportunity for you, we're obviously going to highlight some of the things you've done really well. We know that we've communicated with you many times over about the flexibilities, and we're so glad that you're utilizing those as a way to help continue providing meals to the children you serve in your communities. Eric's going to give us a little bit of a pat on the back as far as that stuff goes and let you know that collectively your efforts are making a really significant difference in the lives of children across the state. He'll touch a little bit on the picture of childhood food insecurity in Nebraska and kind of how that's changing in light of the current circumstances. We'll talk a little bit about why summer meals are especially important, even more now more than during other times of more economic security. And then I'll take over with a little bit of information about some nationwide waivers that the USDA has implemented or offered as a way to help meal service continue in the current circumstances and conditions. We've got one waiver specific to our state. I'll talk about that. And then we'll cover a little bit about resources before we close things out, and then give you the opportunity to ask questions about how you can continue or extend your meal service into the summer months. So obviously, as the outcomes for today's opportunity to be together is that we really would like to see more school districts and school systems serve meals into later May, even June, July, and August. And for many of our sites, that is an option available to them through the Summer Food Service Program. So we'll talk specifically about which kinds of sites are allowed to operate throughout the entire summer break. And then we'll give you the information and tools that you'll need to know to be able to implement that kind of a meal service operation that extends throughout the summer. I'll let Eric take it over from here.
All right, thanks, Katie, and thanks again for letting us share a little bit about what we are doing. So I think folks may know, and I mentioned it, but Nebraska Appleseed is a law and policy organization fighting for justice and opportunity for all Nebraskans. We are on the web, but you may also know us from this year doing work around summer meals, doing a summer food service toolkit. We are also the facilitating organization for the Go Big Breakfast Coalition, which is made up of advocates, school service, food service directors, some funders, and others in our state working to feed kids who need it in our state. So these are just a few places you might know us. But generally, we are working to systematically try to break down barriers that make it harder for you all to do your jobs, try to get more kids food when we see a need for that, and then just do general outreach to work with districts and schools as they are moving into school breakfast, alternative models, and CEP. Thanks for that. Okay, so first of all, I want to just say well done. I don't think it's overstating it to say that we are leading the country and doing very, very well in serving meals to kids while school is out right now. Of the 244 public school districts in Nebraska, I believe today it was up to 215 to 20 were serving meals in a grab and go or delivery style at almost 500 locations across the state. And that's incredible in that there's probably, a little under 10% who are not able to serve meals during this time, but you've also worked really hard to make it so that every kid 1 to 18 can be serving meals by doing it through the summer food service program, and some of you switching from a closed meal site using the option to waive the area eligibility and serving it to all students, all kids 1 to 18 in your areas. So really, really amazing job. We've been excited to put this, put a map together with this. Let me find our everyone. I'm gonna add a few resources to the chat box, but we're just really thrilled that this has happened for a month and a half. You all have done this in amazing time, and we are seeing such good success with kids going through and getting the food that they need. Just as a point of reference, last summer, 75 public school sponsors served summer food service meals during the summer, which is coming up in just a short month, and around 250 locations all throughout Nebraska. So the purpose of this webinar, like we said, is to give you some context to how we did last year compared to the increased need that we are finding this year. 75 versus 214, we'd love to see a lot of folks choosing to serve these meals, employ a few people, and help their communities out. The resources that you find there are, feel free to switch it, Katie, are links to the maps, including the one that we keep, including the closed and open sites. That's the first one. The second one is the USDA Meals for Kids map that shows open sites throughout the country. And the last one is the No Kid Hungry texting line that anyone and everyone can text and find the nearest meal service next to them. I was going to go over a few things about what we've been seeing in the past. The most recent data we have from the feeding, I believe it's the Mapping Hunger in America site, 1 in 6 Nebraskans children are food insecure or not. They don't have enough food to, they don't have enough food to lead a healthy and active lifestyle consistently. It's about 17% of kids. I think folks should know in this room, this virtual room, that folks are generally going to be spending about $300 more per month per child on food over the summer or when school's closed. Without the food service that you all are providing, you're saving a lot of folks a lot of money and taking a lot more pressure off those family lives. So well done for that. But it's helpful to think about what they'll be facing in summer as well. And then last summer, as a state, we were able to serve 1 in 14 kids during the summer who ate lunch during the school year. And this is a stat that comes out from the Food Research and Action Center. And the national average is 1 in 7. So we have a ways to go to meet that national average, and we'd love to see more kids getting served during the summer, and access is one of the ways to do that. So more sites, more sponsors. This is a very interesting and telling piece of data that that came out since the COVID crisis. I'm going to share the link on the chat box right now as well. But the Urban Institute has created this map. and you can zero in on census blocks and see the estimated low-income jobs lost and what industries those jobs have been lost in. So go to that map if you're interested in seeing your own community and seeing what kind of increased need you're seeing there. I'm giving you these tools not necessarily because you don't know them, but because you're seeing them every day as kids go through your lunch lines and breakfast lines. So this is just one tool maybe to help you out with advocating for continuing meal service. If you see that need in your community, this is one tool that can hopefully help out. The most recent unemployment claim numbers is 96,000 jobs in Nebraska, a state of 1.8 million, have been lost in the last 6 weeks. So there's a continued and sustained need that we expect to see. Wrapping up my portion of this is really just a note about some of the supports that are out there that Appleseed is keeping an eye on and advocating more for. We've been really happy to see the governor take up a lot of options that are supportive of people in need at this time. The Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, you all know about. There have been several changes that have made it easier for folks to stay on SNAP and to get more benefits through that. We don't think it's actually needing the complete need, but it is a huge support, and we really applaud the governor and state leadership for taking that up. We're also seeing the Food Bank of the Heartland in Omaha, as well as the Food Bank of Lincoln, just having trouble keeping up with the need. They have announced in press conferences with the governor that the need has increased 40 to 50%. The deliveries are still continuing, but they're considering rationing food at this point. So throughout the summer, we're hoping to see that change as the country seems to be opening up. As slowly but surely, even Nebraska in different ways is doing that. But the food banks and the food supply chain, it seems like, I'm sure you all are seeing that as well, keeping your required meal items on the menu. But we're hoping to see that get better, but it's not there yet. And finally, this is just, I guess, a tack on, but as I mentioned earlier, continuing to do meal service over the summer is an opportunity to put some dollars in your workers' pockets. So what's the next one, Katie? Just double checking. Yeah, so overall, I want to summarize as saying there is a need out there. It's something that is not likely to go away between now and August. And as a advocacy organization, of course, it is my job to be out there helping folks see some of the pros to continuing some of the hard work you're doing now to get food in students' hands and their parents' hands. So with that, I will hand it back to Katie to share some about the details.
Yep. Thank you, Eric. All that information is really great. And I'll share with you something I learned on a call this morning with a food insecurity task force that's sort of being formed. And it's that those food banks, Food Bank of Lincoln and the Food Bank for the Heartland, need to be able to spend about $1 million a month right now to purchase foods. I mean, they rely a lot on donations of foods, obviously, but they're also needing monetary donations to support the kinds of meals and the meal service at the level they need to.
I keep missing this one.
One of the ways.
So I went and I wrote down everything.
Sorry, better mute somebody there. Okay. And so, continuing your summer food service program meal service is one of the ways you can kind of help alleviate the major stress that those food banks are feeling as a result of the current circumstances. So, things we're hearing from nutrition services directors and managers are questions like, am I able to extend meal service if that's something that my administration decides that they want to move forward on? The answer for nearly everyone is a yes, a resounding yes, you can. If you're currently operating a summer food service program meal site as a closed enrolled site, we encourage you to apply to utilize the area eligibility waiver. Doing that and with approval of that waiver and implementing its flexibility, your site would be able to continue meal service through June 30th of this summer. If your summer food service site qualifies to operate as an open site based on meeting the 50% free or reduced eligibility criteria through the school meals program, or if a site you're operating is not in a school building but exists in a census area that's eligible, then that site can operate for the duration of the summer up until the day before school resumes again for the 2020-21 school year. So if you're closed enrolled, again, we encourage you to apply for and utilize that area eligibility waiver. That's going to grant you the option to continue serving meals through June 30th if you want to. If your sites qualify to operate as open sites, then you can continue that meal service for as long into the summer as you want to, up until the day before school resumes again. And so how do you continue meal service? Well, obviously you want to let us know. Your reimbursement for the meals that you serve relies on having a current, up-to-date, and approved application with us. So you're all probably very familiar with the online application. And we would just ask that you make a revision to your site application. If you're an open site, go ahead and make a revision to extend the end dates of your meal service and to update the total operating days for the months that you intend to continue meal service for. Again, if you operate those closed enrolled sites, reach out to us. We can guide you to the application form to be able to utilize the waiver. And then after approval of that waiver's request, you would be instructed to update the end dates and the total meal service days in each of the site applications for which that waiver would be approved. Another question is, do I need to serve the entire summer? And the answer to that is a no. We want you to make that decision locally and independently. We know that you're considering lots of factors when it comes into the decision of whether or not to extend your meal service. You want to consider that you want your staff to feel safe and supported. You want to give them a break that they probably would need at some point. So we also encourage you to be aware that you can stop meal service for a 1 or 2 week break if that's something your staff would really benefit from, and then you can resume service again. So if you wanted to stop when your normal school year was finished and take a 2-week break and pick meal service up again at the beginning of June, that is certainly an option that we allow sponsors and sites to utilize. We would encourage it if that's a way that you can get your food service team to buy into continuing meal service beyond what was normally planned at any level. And so those are all options available to you. But if you have specific questions about the flexibilities or options available in terms of how you continue meal service and for how long, feel free to reach out to a member of our team and we can help answer your questions and concerns. The Summer Food Service Program's fact sheet might be helpful to you as you're trying to get some buy-in from your administration. And we know that spreading the word about the program, garnering some support from the community for your school to continue operating the program might be a really valuable thing. So we encourage you to visit the fact sheet, gather as much information as you need to about the Summer Food Service Program, and obviously consult our office if you need some additional information to share with your leadership about why this program might be an important thing for you to consider continuing. We've got a few nationwide waivers that have been implemented and extended down to us from the National Office of the USDA. A couple of them allow for meal distribution for more than 1 day at a time, and those include the meal service time flexibilities and the non-congregate feeding waiver. So these two waivers together allow sponsors and their summer meal sites to provide meals in a distribution method, and we recognize that this might be an important flexibility for many of you as you're trying to limit contact between people and among your staff members. So in mitigating or helping to mitigate that risk, we allow you to serve up to 7 days worth of meals in a single distribution event. So that might not be something that everyone chooses to do. Obviously, some of the factors you would consider related to utilizing these flexibilities would be food safety, food quality, things like that. But if you've got access to some pretty good shelf-stable menu items, then this might be an option that you want to use. You could also do some version of a meal distribution where you distribute meals to cover all 7 days of the week, but you do it on 2 or 3 occasions throughout the week as a way to help maintain good food quality. We don't want to see those foods kind of, go beyond their peak of quality in a way that's going to ultimately have them get wasted. We want to see those foods consumed by kids, so it's a little bit of a balancing act between mitigating some exposure possibly and trying to limit the number of people you have working together and balancing that against food safety and meal quality. So we know that every site and every school is going to look a little bit differently in how they do that, but we want to make sure that you're utilizing these flexibilities to their fullest extent in a way that's going to help your staff feel safe, but also in a way that's going to be able to serve the students and the children in your communities to the greatest extent. We also know that the USDA allows meal pickup to be done by parents, guardians, or adults living in the same household as children. So they can take these meals home to children. However, sites that choose to utilize this flexibility must take steps to ensure that the meals provided to those adults actually do have children living in the home with them. This might mean that you could require an advanced sign up to receive meals and then maybe use a roster based on who signed up to receive meals. Some sort of verification piece does need to take place. That's going to be a little bit more important probably in the larger schools, larger cities, and larger school districts or systems. We understand that our smaller communities are very familiar with all of the families with children enrolled in the school. So the steps or measures taken to ensure program integrity are certainly going to look different, but we just needed to be able to communicate to you that that piece of the program is still very important if you choose to allow parent pickup of meals. And that is a local district level decision. You do not have to allow or elect to utilize this flexibility if you don't want to. Meal pattern flexibilities are allowed in circumstances where you're unable to procure the required meal pattern components. So that might occur if there's a food chain interruption or if you experience spoilage of food. We want to remind you that every effort should be made to provide the appropriate substitute to the meal item you're missing. Some of the ways you could accomplish that would be to purchase locally, and that's a really nice way to support local agriculture and keep the dollars that you're spending locally as a way to kind of stimulate or help the local economy. We also encourage you to reach out to other distributors or vendors. If it's prepackaged produce items, we encourage you to buy in bulk and then repackage if you have the manpower to do that. And we want to remind you that with the Summer Food Service Program meal pattern, you can serve 2 of the same component item when it comes to meeting the fruit vegetable requirements at lunch. So you wouldn't have to serve a fruit and a vegetable. You could serve 2 fruits or 2 vegetables or a fruit and a vegetable. You just have to make sure that if you're serving 2 fruits, for example, that they're not from the same fruit. Applesauce and apple juice would not be an allowable lunch meal combination. So hopefully with those additional ideas, you'll be able to continue providing meals with all of the required components. If you should run into a situation where you cannot meet meal pattern, be sure to let us know. We have documentation that we would require you to complete regarding utilization of this flexibility. And as of right now, the meal pattern flexibility has been extended through May 31st, 2020, while all other meal service flexibilities are currently in place through June 30th. As you know, we talked a little bit about the area eligibility waiver, and we've offered a little bit of technical assistance and targeted training regarding this. This waiver is available for school food authorities that are currently providing meals through either the National School Lunch Program or through the Summer Food Service Program at closed enrolled sites. If you'd like to be considered to utilize this waiver, we require that you complete an application at the link on the slide here. These slides and the recording of today's presentation will be available on our website And if you visit our website, it should be pretty clearly, you could really easily navigate to the area eligibility application. It's at the very front page of our nutrition services webpage. Utilizing this means you would provide some information about your school, including the economic hardship that your community has experienced. We would review your application and the information you submitted and be in contact with you about the status of that application. So if you're a school operating either meals through the school lunch program right now, or you're utilizing the closed enrolled option through the summer food service program to provide meals during your school's closure, we encourage you to apply to utilize this waiver. It's going to make meal service operation a little bit easier for you. The documentation is slightly simpler. The meal pattern for the summer food service program is a better fit for grab and go type meals, which is probably what many of you are doing. And remember, if you are approved to utilize this waiver, you can continue your meal service through at least through June 30th. You can obviously choose to stop before that, but again, we're encouraging you to utilize as many flexibilities as you can to continue meal service for as long as you can. As we mentioned earlier, continuing to serve meals would require a revision to your site application to change the end dates and the total number of meal service days in each month that you plan to continue your meal service. We urge you to consider a plan that allows you to implement all of the available flexibilities to the maximum extent that you think you could continue to serve high quality meals using. Remember to confirm a staffing plan. We understand that some food service team members may enjoy the break that they typically get during the summer months and maybe just need a mental break to, from the high stress circumstances they probably have been working under. And that is a perfectly fine thing to do. And if you want to consider a little break and then pick your meal service up maybe in June, something like that is certainly a plan that you could proceed with. Obviously, you need to get approval from your local administration. Sharing some of the information about food insecurity that Eric started off with today would be nice information to provide. And then obviously continuing to spread the word or get the word out to students and families about your continued meal service is going to be an important piece of the success of your your summer food service program operation. A few best practices we thought we would share based on conversations we've had with many food service directors across the state. Some have opted to pack and provide weekend meals. So using the summer food service program, you can offer meals for all 7 days of the week. Want to reiterate that the summer food service program meal pattern allows for service of 2 fruits or 2 veggies or 1 fruit and 1 vegetable for lunch. That's a little bit different than using the school lunch meal pattern, which most of you are accustomed to. Want to remind you that produce can be served fresh, frozen, canned, or dried, and all of those are going to meet meal pattern requirements. I mention that because I know some schools have had a difficult time sourcing their first choice when it comes to fruits and vegetables, but just a reminder that all of those forms are creditable options for you. If you have trouble getting food packaging supplies, we encourage you to just order whatever you can and make it work as best you can. I heard that some vendors are running low on 4-ounce portion cups. We understand that's probably your preferred size, but it would be an option to purchase a 6-ounce cup, but just package it with 4 ounces or a half a cup of the required component if we're talking about something like a fruit or vegetable. I want to remind you that Commodities probably still has some canned and frozen fruit options available. If you have money left to spend there, we don't want to see you leave it on the table. So be sure to reach out to Commodities to see what your options might be there for getting items that you need to provide creditable meals. We've also heard that some schools are trying to rotate staff schedules and even decentralize meal preparation as a means to help reduce the time and frequency that people are spending together. So those might be some other options that you would consider as the kind of landscape, at least in your community, may change as it relates to the virus, COVID-19. We'll toss it back to you, Eric.
Sure. So this is a resource from a national nonprofit focused on child insecurity and eliminating child food insecurity. And these 3 resources are ones I just wanted to make sure folks had in their toolbox. They're linked in the chat box now as well. But lots of you all may not have these at hand, but comparison of the usual summer and after school meal program requirements compared to the COVID-19 flexibilities. That might help describe what you've heard, some of the myths you've heard about serving summer meals versus what is available and happening in our state or across the country right now. The frequently asked questions on child nutrition program operations available during school closures. That's a long document that has answers to many, many questions that might come up. You could share some of these with, if you have questions yourselves, these are some of the, at least USDA approved ones. This is a national nonprofit reminder. And then finally, the emergency planning and staff safety tips, I believe, could be valuable to any and all folks who are on the front lines, considered essential, which are you all, out of their houses right now and doing the hard work of making sure kids are fed. So these are simple resources, they're linked, and if you have interest, feel free to visit.
We'll give you an opportunity to ask any questions you have about extending meal service, maybe any concerns you have about the way you're currently operating. There might be some problems we can help you solve, or maybe give you ideas for a contingency plan that would allow you to consider or to continue your meal service if that's something you want to consider. We can also answer any questions or concerns you have about the current waivers that are available to you. And as always, you saw on the screen, I ended my share too soon, that Eric and I both provided our contact information. But as a reminder, I'll post the link to this recording as well as the slides we used today, so you could have pretty easy access to the contact information for either of us.